All right, thank you one more time. The program is still right here on independent television. Now, the diaspora population keep on increasing every year, and hence you hear of the Jackba syndrome. I mean, it's something that once you say Jackba, people will readily understand because a lot of persons in the country are looking for better, better pay where that pays more, and of course where the pasture is greener. Hence, you hear greener pasture and all that and all that. But this morning, we are going to be looking at the youths, Nigerian youths in diaspora, and of course, let's see their developmental impacts, back home in Nigeria. This morning, we are so privileged to have a young star. You may want to call him Ekponsa Egage is a Nigerian youth in Sweden. And of course, he's been making his impacts, down home and even in Sweden. Mr. Ekponsa, you're welcome to the program this morning on ITV.
Well, thank you for having me this morning. Good morning, everyone.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So better now. Now, Ekponsa, I know there's no doubt that I don't want to ask why you left this country, but somehow we somehow know, most Nigerian youth, they want to leave. So what is your assessment of developmental impacts of Nigerian youths in the diaspora back home?
Okay. In terms of the development, first of all, I think I will start with the fact that in terms of migration, it's a thing of the mind and a thing of choice. Because even when the economy is good and even when the economy seems not to be so good, people still want to move. Even in the developed countries, people still move about. So it's a thing of the mind and it's a thing of choice for people to actually move depending on what they want to do and their intentions. So let's get that straight because I actually had a clear example where I met someone at the university down here in Nigeria and I asked him, how you doing? We're like, yeah, it's fine. We just met at an event and it was like him and his dad, they moved to Sweden in the year 2012. And I was like, well, if you date back to 2012, the economy was pretty good and the exchange rate and other macroeconomic variables were pretty stable in the country. So that's why I started that it's a thing of the mind and it's a thing of choice. And as regards their impact, first of all, I think I looked up the diaspora remittances of for Nigeria was $19.5 billion in 2023. That's the World Bank report as at 1st July 2024. That's to Nigeria alone. In terms of their impact, the impact actually cuts across several spells. I don't know if you want me to go into that now. So,
You can.
as I highlighted earlier, we talked about remittances. That's one of the first impacts because it comes to the economy. That's $19.5 billion as at 2023, coming to the Nigerian economy from its citizens in the diaspora coming back home to people. And then when you look at in terms of remittances, people send money back home to their siblings, to their parents, for one thing or the other, either for food, education, healthcare. And this naturally helps to stimulate the local economy depending on the different states it trickle down to. So in terms of remittances, I think in terms of economy and the remittances, Nigerians in the diaspora are really, really doing a lot, and it's contributing a lot to the nation as a whole, and also to the various states where this money trickle down to kind of pop up the local economy.
Okay. You see, most times when we engage Nigerian youths in diaspora, asked of developmental impacts and all that, or we even ask what kind of impacts are they making. Now, we rarely hear of remittances, but does it not bother you that the kind of impact we should be talking about now? I mean, we're talking about Nigerian youths that go outside this country to gain more knowledge in terms of
Yeah.
education, gain more knowledge in terms of expertise and technology and all that. Now, does it not bother you that it looks as if that these youths don't come back to bring back this knowledge back home?
Well, I think in terms of coming back, bringing the knowledge back home, that's what we talk about knowledge and skills transfer. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so that's when we talk about knowledge and skills transfer. So people, based on the knowledge they've acquired down here, and they could get partners and they could just come to the country to kind of look for where there are problems, and they come to like create value. So Nigerians actually do that. Like from the business, those that have the business and the business eye. So you're able to look at things, haven't lived here, seen how they solve their problems, and definitely, because I always say that any problem we're grappling with back home as well has been solved somewhere. So you're not recreating anything. So it's just for you to look at the template of how problems we're grappling with at home has been solved elsewhere, and then you just bring back that same template. You could fine tune some things based on the peculiarities, and you keep the economy moving. So the people who are actually business savvy look at this knowledge and skills transfer. They're able to like, okay, we could partner with some companies and come back home to actually solve some problems, create value, and grow the economy. So I think that's another aspect of it in terms of knowledge and skills transfer. It's there. So even if they may not come home to come and stay full time, but definitely people bring complaints to come solve problems, and they watch the company grow and the economy grow as a result of their investments in that direction. So there are actually several ways you could look at it. I talked about remittances, then you just brought up the fact that okay, there's also knowledge and skills transfer, which I've touched on.
Yeah, what we tend to be looking at is to look at the way Nigerians outside come back home compared to the way Nigerians inside want to live. Oftentimes, we see more of going out than coming in. I mean, recently, about 2 days ago, the U.S. Embassy, had to let the world know that almost about 10 to 15% of the U.S. Army is made up of Nigerians, and most of these Nigerians, they have their citizenship through naturalization. Now, these are youths, Nigerian youths that ordinarily they won't want to go into the army back home, not even the police and all that. But because of the fact that it is United States of America, and also for the fact that readily that gives them it gives them citizenship in the U.S. So what we are saying is that people leave and they don't want to come. And does it not bother you guys outside this country?
Well, as regards people leaving and no money to come, I would subject that to a thing of choice. And people also looking at what's going on back home. Because people in the diaspora also watch the news. I follow ITV and a lot of sister channels back home to see what's going on. And if you listen to some of the top entrepreneurs in the country, Christy Mogalu, uh, the UBA, what's called the head holding CEO, they'll tell you for those who want to leave, it's a thing of choice. You can go, and they feel that whenever the country is ready, citizens will always come back to invest. So it's more of like when the students are ready, there's a Chinese provider. So when the students are ready, the teacher will arrive. So for me, it's a thing of choice. And if you feel you can excel elsewhere, it's good for you to go. You can't tie anybody down because how will I put this now? I'm trying to recall the word of Tony Elumelu. So if you have the opportunity, they will tell you you can go. Currently, the economy is not doing very, very well now. So for those who have the opportunities to go for studies, to go for jobs and other things based on their skill profile, definitely nobody should discourage them. They should go and they will always have their contribution back to the economy because they have their families and everybody there. So for me, it doesn't bother me because one way or the other, they are also contributing to the economy back home.
Okay. All right. So talking about back home now, in what ways do you think that the governments of the government back home, can begin to maybe reset the narrative, reset the situation back home, so that this Nigerian youth that leave, they should come back home and bring back those knowledge, reinvest back those knowledge back home. So in what ways do you think the government can help?
First of all, in terms of government help, you have to look at it from different levels. It's the federal government, the state, and then the local government, and It all boils down to the economy precisely. I think in the intro of this show, I told you about the Nigerian who him and his parents actually left the country in year 2012. If you look at the exchange rate at then and you look at the exchange rate now, they tell you like as a then we had like it was 150 naira to a dollar, and today now it's about 1,000 or 1,005 to a dollar. Not even talking about the pounds or the euros. So those are basically the macroeconomic variables being managed by the federal government. So for me, the economy sits at the front burner and everything. in other part of the world, government win or lose elections based on the economy, because the economy that determines the value of your life. The macroeconomic variables that the federal government deals with, like the exchange rates, things like PMS, those things that the states do not have control over. They have to manage those variables very well. Because if you look at the economy currently, the things that actually threw the country's economy into turmoil, if we may use that word, were actually policies by the federal government that the state government do not have control over, like the exchange rates, um, price of PMS. Okay, look at the electricity, to removing them subsidy on electricity. Those are things that are actually within the confines of the federal government and the exclusive list. So for me, economy still sits at the front burner, because those variables I just mentioned will actually work through the economy to what it is today. The devaluation of the naira, the cost of living prices that has gone up drastically. So economy sits at the front burner in all. So if the economy doesn't bounce back, because they just told Nigerians to be patient, give them time, and see how it goes. So we hope the economy gets better, because the way it is, it's not looking very, very good. And trust me, economy sits at the front burner of everything, and it determines the quality of our life. So the government and the federal, state, and local government need to work on the economy, so that people can actually have access to the basics of life without cutting their nose.
Okay. In what ways do you think the federal government can work on the economy now? Because the present government, is doing a whole lot, to improve the economy, but that seems not to be showing on the standard of living of Nigerians. So, in what ways? I mean, you look at it from afar. What do you think the government is doing that is not doing properly?
Okay, that's at the federal level.
Yes.
I think from when I looked at those variables of the exchange rate, the subsidy removal that was not properly well managed, because all the candidates during the electionary campaign agreed they were going to remove subsidy, but how you were going to go about it was for them was kind of quite different. And I would say the way they went about their subsidy removal, I think most people will tell you, or most experts will tell you, was not the right way to go about it. Was not the right way to go about it. But I was still in the country then when the president just said, "Oh, subsidy is gone." And immediately, that was the policy statement. Immediately, next day, all the filling stations around closed, locked up. And for those who opened, they actually did increase the price of PMS. So for me, they have to actually look at their policies and how it's impacting the lives of our citizens. That I just talked about, that was subsidy removed, that was the subsidy. So they really have to manage that. And I think we hope in the long run, looking at the Dangote refinery and the Port Harcourt refinery also coming on board. We hope we want to scale down the prices with time, so that people can actually afford this product, because definitely the Nigerian economy revolves to a large extent around the PMS. So once you tinker with those prices, it trickles down in terms of prices to many other things in the lives of the people: transportation, um, cost of goods and services, of which they use PMS to power those vehicles that actually transport them. So for me, I think the variables with which the federal government controls, largely the macroeconomic variables, they have to deal with those variables. And also the states too have to be up on their own games too, because we live in states, and states have to ensure they manage their resources and their human capital in such a way that it delivers dividends for our citizens. So for me, the variables that the federal government can take care of, they should do that very well, effective and efficiently. And the state governments too also have to prioritize the welfare of our citizens and actually engage on projects that will impact on their lives significantly.
All right, so outside the financial remittances you talked about, that seems to be a major way that Nigerian youths, develop back home, Nigeria back home and all that. So there's no other thing, no other way you think that Nigerian youths can, add to development back home?
Investment is also part of it. Investment could come from several angles, because definitely people send back money. Okay, I want to build a house in terms of real estate. They want to acquire land, build houses. That's also an investment. They also do business. They also do businesses too. Either they are sponsoring their relatives or their siblings, like funding their businesses for them. So it does also help to trickle down to the economy. Let me give you a clear example. Imagine, let's say Nigerians, particularly, let's just narrow it down to it. Those states come back home twice in a year, and then they come back home and they spend 2,000 US dollars. I mean, you're not spending the money in Lagos or Abuja, you're going to spend that money in Benin. You know what that's going to do to the local economy? And then you come back a second time to the states, like to Edo, let me use Edo State precisely, and then you come with just a friend, so you're two. You spend a minimum of $2,000 in Edo, not in Lagos or Abuja. You know the impact on that's going to be on the economy. So that's in terms of propping the local economy, and people coming back home twice a year. That's really going to do a lot. So investment will come in several trades. Actually invest in real estate, in businesses, and all other areas. So that's the way people in the diaspora also contribute to development back home too. So in terms of investment and in other areas.
Okay. Now, talking about investments now, there are factors that may be threatening investors, even foreign investors now. You talk about insecurity, you talk about the bad situation with power, in Nigeria. Now, in these two factors, with these two factors, how do you think the government can improve? Where should the government start from?
Okay. When you talk about government, it's more like you have to look at the layer. I can tell you in terms of electricity, the act has been so liberalized in such a way now that states now can go into power. So it's no longer an exclusive preserve or a monopoly of the federal government. So states now, I think those states even have the optimal power plant, which is actually powering all the MDAs in the state and the government house that's the first stage, and they also plan to extend distribution to cover more other areas. So for me, the first point is power, because that's the foundation of everything. So for me, I want to focus more on the states. I wouldn't want to talk about the federal because that seems too far from the citizens. For the citizens, let the state government, like what Edo has done with her Osimo power plant and intend to expand distribution. Abia has done the same thing too. So I think for me, state government need to go into power generation so that you can actually attract investment to prop up your local economy. Because these things are actually not rocket science. If you're talking about your economy, you have to look at your comparative advantage, which we learned in elementary economics by David Ricardo. What are the comparative advantage of the state, not of the federal government? Of the state, for example, now you take Edo, for example, now what are our comparative advantage? You look at project subsequent administrations have worked on. You hear about the Edo ports that is estimated to bring in 10 billion US dollars into the Edo state economy annually. So for me, I would want to look at development from the state government perspective. I don't want to take it too far. So that is what a state like Edo is doing. They're working on that. They've gotten all the approvals, they've gotten their preferred bidder. So it's just more of like to ramp up finances to get the Edo port running. They have gone into power generation, which I said is the foundation and key to everything. So that the states are not crying, oh, electricity, depending on the provider, oh, it's bad or this. States can actually collaborate. Two states or three states can collaborate and go into power generation and distribution to actually grow their own local economy, attract investors in the areas they have comparative advantage. Agriculture is one of the comparative advantages of Edo states, and which they are working on in terms of their school of agriculture in Igoraki, in the three senatorial districts, looking at areas they have comparative advantage. You could also talk about oil palm in Edo, which is a cash crop, which we can actually do a lot because I think there were three major investors that came into Edo in the previous years, which actually did a lot in terms of oil palm. So for me, investment is key. Power number one, investment. The state government, this is state government now attracting investment in the area they have advantage. It's all about vision. Because I think Duffy came to Edo State, Sarawak, and one other firm to invest in oil palm. And it was the
All
vision
right,
of the
so
state government.
we've already talked about the remittances. That's the financial remittances that these Nigerian youths bring back home. There's no doubt about that. But our major concern is that we should stretch it further because we're talking about these Nigerian youths going outside the country and gaining knowledge and gaining education and all that. But what we've seen recently is that this knowledge, most times, they don't come back. And we've been able to identify some of the issues. The issues are the fact that the economy is not encouraging, and of course, the issue of power is also there. Now, the issue of insecurity, is a major problem, not just in Edo State, perhaps in Nigeria. Now, I don't want to say that it appears that successive governments have displayed some level of inability to really handle the situation. I mean, as a Nigerian in diaspora, what do you think the issues are with insecurity back home?
Well, the issues with security back home are actually multifaceted, first of all. And you're actually multifaceted, and what most of the state governors are actually doing, because they don't control the police first. So in other words, that's more of like the issue of the state police. That's a discussion for another day. So the issues are actually a lot. For example, if we look at the southern part of the country, which is relatively stable as regards to security. Then if you look at the north, you have the issue of the northeast, you have the issue of banditry. Sorry, northwest, you have banditry. Northeast, you have
Banditry,
the
yeah.
Boko Haram. So it's a whole lot, and the federal and the state have to create a synergy on how to deal with these problems, and they have to look for a strategy on how to deal with these problems. And in all, they're actually the economic blowback that results to a lot of all these crimes, I can say. And then for the state, going forward for them, most of them actually use their state vigilantes, which are actually they are organized to kind of resolve these issues in terms of where they are having lapses with the state police force, because they do not have control over the police. So the state governors try to like see how they can use their own local vigilantes to deal with these issues to kind of, because definitely if you can't create a stable environment for investors, they won't come. They have to be sure that their investment actually secured. There's a rule of law for economy to thrive. So you can't just talk about economy in a vacuum without security. Security and economy, they go side by side. So for me, there's actually a lot. But I think if you look at it based on regions, the state governors are trying to see what they can do. But I think they can do more. They can do more and they can do better.
Now, we've seen a situation whereby some state governments are trying to sponsor, maybe try to look at it that, okay, let us begin to have a state police as it is done in other climes. Now, do you think that we enhance the security in Nigeria?
Um, Yeah, for me, definitely that's a yes, and I think that's a conversation that is actually overdue, because but we keep running away from the fact, oh, the central police can actually not police the country, because it's more of like, let's say an example, you bring a man from Zamfara to Edo State, he doesn't know the look and crimes of Edo State. He doesn't really understand the citizens or know the bad guys in the area, so and how to go about it. For me, and other experts have actually said same thing, that I think state police is the way for us to go, but it seems the current administration is not looking in that direction. Because I always say that the way the country is configured, it's more of like the president is more of like a, let me know. I think the word is more of like, how would I use to put it now? It's more of like more of like a military person clothed with civilian parts. Because trust me, he doesn't seem like someone who wants to go in the direction of state police. Even though when they were in the opposition, they've clamored, they've talked about it, they've clamored for it, but now they're in power, they don't seem to be looking at that direction. But the truth be told, is the state police will actually help to deal with a lot of things, because you have people in the police force who are from that state, who understand the looks and crimes of the place, and they help to police the area. So they definitely, if anything happens, they know what to do. For me, state police is the way to go. And even local government police, where you talk about the county. But I think we can start on state police, then we can trickle down to like creating a structure for the police in the local government, so they can actually help to police the state. And then definitely the state governor can actually really have state powers over the police. And then for me, there are no fears, because there are checks and balances, and we are not the first. It's not our idea. It's been done elsewhere and it's been successful. So we have to look at how others are doing it, and then look at our local peculiarities, and then adopt and then get state police up and running by having structures that are more of international and best practices. So for me, state police for me is the way to go.
All right, once if thank you, Mr. Ekmonsa for joining us this morning virtually from Sweden. And that's, what we are looking at. Because a recent publication from the Nigeria's Diaspora Commission recently revealed that apart from the cash transfer, there's actually no, not that there's no developmental impact, but it's not really felt. It is only in cash transfer and all that. Now, we want to see more of investments back home in terms of the education that these youths go there to get in diaspora. Bring it back home, and of course, and see how they can also contribute to the nation. And it also has said that it is because of insecurity, the economy is not that encouraging. That's why it is more of cash transfer rather than other ways to develop the nation. I want to say thank you one more time, Mr. Ekmon Sairage, for joining us on the show.